Awesome. So it's recording. So I always start off these chats just by asking simply, tell us a bit about yourself and your background.
Yeah, sure. I got into nutrition probably about 12 years ago. My first degree was a food science degree, and I worked very much in the food industry, but with all the bad guys. You know, I was ice cream, I was Coca-Cola, all the things that we probably shouldn't have. So I saw that side of the industry, and I also got to work in product development. So, you know, you can see sort of the disparity of what's been put out there and what's been marketed to people. But I really took a career direction because I post kids, I put on a lot of weight, and it got to the point where it was creeping up 1 stone, 2 stone. I thought, right, you hit a point, you think no more. So I joined a weight loss company, lost 3 stone, and it really, really did spark my interest. And at the same time, I was looking for a career change. So I went back to university and I did my master's in nutrition, physical activity, and public health. And it was really focusing on the main 5 non-communicable diseases. So the diabetes, the cancer, the mental health, metabolic syndrome, and everything was diet and exercise related. You know, even things like diabetes, where they're prescribing metformin, the research was showing that diet, exercise was, you know, coming out better in a lot of the studies, or at least comparable.
Okay.
So that really did spark my interest. And I initially, because I did my dissertation for Slimming World, I initially went into the weight loss field. But I also noticed that a lot of the people who were coming to me for weight loss had underlying health conditions. And really, the weight was like a symptom. And until they addressed their digestive issues or whatever, their stress levels or their sleeping patterns, all the sort of lifestyle things, until they were going to address those, they really weren't going to get to the bottom of the weight. And that was fascinating. At the same time, we're starting to see, you know, like the Slimming Worlds, the Weight Watchers, they were all coming out with the mindset and the motivation, the key drivers. So it was interesting to see that sort of change in direction. But again, it puts you on a pathway, and I went and trained in functional medicine to really understand what biomedical tests were around, to understand the gut markers, to understand what was going on. And the other thing that I was working with at the time, I'm hugely passionate about mindfulness, meditation, etc. But I'd had an ACL injury. I'd gone skiing. I wasn't as fit as I thought I was. Tried to do more than I should have done, and fell on the slope, snapped my ACL. You know, heard it go pop, and really sort of traumatic trying to recover from that, because it's one of those injuries where you have to recover enough so that you can have the operation afterwards. So you're trying to use all your nutrition knowledge, and really when it comes to sort of pain and rehabilitation, yes, it's useful, but you still need a little bit more. And the physio was great, and the exercise was great, the post-operative. But I was finding that, you know, my passion, I've never been a gym buddy. I used to do the treadmill and the rowing, but for me to exercise, I got into Zumba and Pilates. They were my thing, and I absolutely loved them. And I think you have to find what you love to be able to keep doing it. Otherwise, it just falls away. Same with diet, same with the exercise. But this injury was starting to impact on that. And I thought, gosh, I don't want to be in a position where I can't do my Zumba. I need that 3 times a week. So I also started to work on the pain side, and I work with some energy medicine technologies called Scalar, which is really phenomenal for post-injury. So I've got a real passion and interest for people who are either right at the start of the journey. Maybe their GP has said, you now need to exercise, you're at risk of diabetes, and they may be really at the start thinking, okay, well, I know I'm supposed to eat 5 a day, but what else? And they're really starting their journey. Or you've got the people who maybe go to the gym and are doing some stuff, but they might have maybe plateaued in their weight, and they're pumping away at different exercises and not getting the results. And those people are really fascinating to work with. Or then you've got the people who are really top of their game, the athletes who really need the fine detail in terms of what you need to do, maybe with the macronutrients, timing of foods, etc. And then you've also got the people who are, recovering from some type of injury, which is hugely frustrating. And nutrition might not be all they need, because obviously they need the physical therapies as well. But I just keep learning. I'm one of these people who keeps going, keeps learning. And more recently, I've been training in DNA. The genetics are hugely interesting in helping people find how they're going to have an active lifestyle, how they're going to have a healthy lifestyle. Because my biggest thing is you've got to meet people where they're at. We do want everybody to eat healthily. We do want everybody to exercise, but there's no point just saying, here's a diet, eat that. You need to go and do 6 hours at the gym. It's just not going to work. But when you take a personalized approach and really consider the person, you can start with their DNA, you can start with their whole of life history to where they are right now. So you're meeting them absolutely where they're at, and go from there. What's the next step that they need to take? So it's just been an evolving process for me, using sort of experience from my own life, how it's driven me. And every time I get a client I can't answer a question for, it sort of drives me to go and find that more information for them.
That's fascinating. So it's almost like the adversity you faced in getting your injury has really sort of pushed and driven your passion and to help other people. And it seems like you've literally just never stopped learning. And I think that's so important. You can never know too much about a certain topic. And everything you do know, you can just keep informing and helping your clients. So yeah, it's amazing, your journey. And it's really inspiring. So what would you say, so when it's a client, so you have a new client, what can that client expect from sort of a program with you?
Yeah, so initially I need to know all about them. We always start with a really detailed health questionnaire, because my belief is every part of their life has built up to where they are right now, right from, even to the point before they were born in the mother's womb. Everything contributes. So that gives us their history, and then there's where they are now. But, the single question I want to know from anybody is, what is your happy end result? What are you looking for? What are you hoping to achieve? Because when you understand what that is, you understand their motivations, and especially if you can link it to something. So, for example, if I'm dealing with a middle-aged lady, she might be wanting to lose some weight. That's great. Why do you want to lose weight? Oh, well, I've got my son's wedding, Or if you've got a younger person and they're post-injury, they are going to be wanting to get back to a routine, but without that risk of injury again. So it really is taking that personalized approach, so you understand why somebody's there, why somebody picked up the phone and said, Kirsty, I need some help. What do you do? And the health history is a great start. Then from that, depending on the information I get from that, we will look at, is DNA investigation appropriate? Tends maybe not to be for some of the younger people. I found a lot out, retrospectively, which I wish I'd known 20 years ago, because my DNA sport report told me that I was susceptible to injuries. And if I'd known that, I would have been aware that, alongside the Zumba, I really needed to be doing a little bit more conditioning to prevent that risk of injury. So it really does depend on the person. So we've got the health history. Then we look at, do we need to do any DNA, gather some DNA information to see what they're susceptible to? Do we need to do any functional biomedical testing? Is there underlying health conditions there? Okay. So again, taking that sort of personalized approach. Now, what we want people to do is have what I call a lifestyle prescription. So this is the right eating plan for you. What we want to stay away from is, here's a diet, do that, lose weight, stop the diet, put it all back on. It's looking at how we can get somebody from what they're doing currently to something that they can work with going forward, but not necessarily step off, in a couple of months' time. And also, we do all have predispositions. When it comes to the genes, MTHFR is quite a big one. We may need to sort of supplement to help people with some of the metabolism. The carbohydrates, the gluten sensitivity. There's a lot of allergies around. There's a lot of sensitivities around. So again, it's such a personal approach to understand how can that person best operate, best function. Okay, so what is the right eating plan for them? Do they need to supplement where there may be some shortfalls, or maybe the body's not processing, or we've had some underlying health conditions that we just need to address there to get them back on track? And how do we keep them, being physically active, but also, really got a consideration the stress, the downtime, the relaxation, because again, if they're in a stressful environment, stressful job, etc., it's going to throw everything out the window. It really is building up that big picture of where somebody is, where they want to get to, and mapping out that journey. And what I try to say to people is, it's a bit like delayering an onion. Don't come for one appointment.
Yeah.
Think of this as, I'm going to take the next, 1 to 3 months. Sometimes it's 3 to 6. Give yourself 3 months to start a journey, get some good practices in place. We know it takes, 21 days to change a habit. Take it bit by bit, bite-sized chunks, change those habits, embed them, and get yourself to a point, because it becomes self-perpetuating. It like snowballs. Once you start to feel better and look better, you do want more of it, and you get to a point where you think, no, this is working for it. It becomes very natural, and that's my aim with the people that I want to work with.
Yeah, that really comes through. I guess with these programs where it's a lot on the client to have to stick to it, motivation can become a bit of an issue. Is there any techniques that you use to make sure that your clients are always motivated to achieve their goals?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, initially, I've mentioned the fact that we need to attach their goals, their SMART goals, if you like, to some sort of emotional gain for them. I also mentioned that, I work a lot with meditation, mindfulness.
Yes.
When it comes to people, I'm always looking out for the limiting beliefs, the undesirable habits that they can't change. Because one of the things I do is something called rapid transformational therapy, and it's where we work with people in the subconscious mind. So it's like a hypnotherapy technique, and for people who are really struggling to break those habits, they want to, but what they've got is subconscious programs running them, and it can be way back in childhood, So that's something else we do. If I come across a client who is plateaued or is stuck, who's like, yes, I've had it before where somebody said, Kirsty, I love the Mediterranean diet. I want to eat everything on it, but I just can't help it when I go to McDonald's, walk past the McDonald's, and I just go in there and it's all gone out the window. So, it happens, it's life. So with those people, I'll probably suggest, right, okay, what is going on? Because there's a deeper level here in the subconscious mind. And I'll offer those sort of sessions, and that can be like a 2-hour session where we really regress somebody back to where did those habits occur, why, and try and reframe them. And that's super, super powerful for anybody who's really wants to, but just can't, and they're sort of more extreme cases. What we need to do is, I find that also, if you can break down some of the stages to really small bite-sized people, like take 1 or 2, 2 objectives, small ones, like let's just up your vegetable count per day for the next 2 weeks. If you can break things down into bite size, as soon as people start to get those wins, that's sort of the snowball effect as well. So I do think that's super powerful.
Yeah, so it's almost the diet, the physical side, but also it's almost psychology as well, trying to break habits and become like sort of fight like a mental battle and doing what you're used to. So interesting.
Absolutely. And you don't want somebody spending all day worrying about the fact that they, had a little bit of a relapse. It's just a little relapse. Get back on it the next day. For some people it can be the end of the world. It doesn't have to be like that. It shows that you're actually conscientious and you're worrying about it. So it's taking the fear out of things, taking that fear of failure as well away, so that somebody thinks, oh, I can start again tomorrow. It's not the end of the world.
What's the, as a coach or as a nutrition advisor, what's the key thing that sort of motivates you or gives you that sort of satisfaction to do what you do?
I think I work with a lot of people who do have the digestive issues, and they are in a lot of pain. And when you can take somebody who has been in a lot of pain and has really struggled to, operate in their daily life. I mean, a classic one, I used to get migraines. I don't get them anymore because I got to the root cause of them. So again, when you've got somebody like that who is missing out on life because of either, gut problems or migraines or headaches, and you can solve that problem for them, their life is so much better. Speaking from experience, I would lose 2 or 3 days on a migraine. So I've got clients who have been the same. That's given you so much more opportunity for life. So it's self-rewarding in that sense, really.
Yeah, very well said. And I've got your quote here on Sports Session. It's reach beyond your current limitations. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So it's really interesting, and this comes back to the limiting beliefs, and it's that old quote: whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Okay. And sometimes it just takes somebody to say, we'll give it a go, we'll have a try. I've been in the gym and I've said, oh, I can only bench press this, or I can only do so many push-ups, and then somebody said, well, how do you know? Have you tried? And sometimes, no, I don't want to. Exactly, you don't want to, but doesn't mean you can't. So it's those sort of limitations. And again, we did this exercise with rapid transformation therapy. If you take your arm and put it behind your back and see how far it goes, and then if you close your eyes and ask to do the same thing again, you go much further. Well, why is that? A lot of it is the mind kicking in, trying to protect you, which is its job. It's what it does. But if you can do it in a safe, controlled way, you can always go that little bit further. And that might just be where you want to go to, or that next level that you can reach. So yeah, that's why I like to use that quote.
All you have to do is just try. People, as you were saying, people in the subconscious think they can't do something. And it's just taking that step in the right direction. I feel like that's what we're really trying to do here at Sports Session. We've got such a plethora of sports and wellness coaches and activities. You never know, you could just stumble upon your inner passion. It might be surfing, it might be dieting, it might be football, it could be a manner of different things. But one thing that can be said is you don't know until you try. And once you found that sort of inner passion that you didn't necessarily know about, then you just don't look back. It almost becomes your personality, that thing that fires you up, and it obviously has those positive effects in every aspect of your life. So it's just doing it. I've always said to myself that the hardest thing to do when starting a sporting activity is just giving it a go. Is just starting, bringing yourself to get involved. And it might not be the first session, but if you have a sort of liking of it, then go to the second one, and then it becomes something you become more competent at, you become more confident, and then, as I said, you don't look back. So yeah, I can really really build a rapport with what you've just said. And yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah, I have 2 kids. I've seen it in my kids as well. When they were little, we tried them with so many different hobbies, and we made it okay for them to say, I don't want to do that anymore. Okay, but what are you going to replace it with? So my son tried football, really didn't like it, but loved rugby. Okay, and it's just allowing people to say, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, let's keep going. Let's keep finding what is right for you. When I used to go to the gym and I would be on the stairgate, I hated it, but I had to do it. And I thought, is this what I've got to do? 3 times a week? I really don't want that. But then when I found Zumba, God, I couldn't get enough of it. So it's inspiring people to find out what they do, because we are, born and geared to be healthy, but it's finding the way that we want to. And it's really interesting as well, just going back to some of the DNA stuff. When I got my DNA sport report, it said, oh, you're more prone to exercising in the morning. And I thought, that is so true. Why didn't I know that years ago? And I would have wasted all this time trying to go after work thinking, oh, I don't want to go to the gym. I get up in the morning, I'm like, yeah, I want to go. And then I was looking at my, caffeine obviously is huge. Some people it's great for, some people it isn't. Now I know that I can take, caffeine half an hour before a Zumba exercise, and it just makes it amazing. Other people wouldn't be able to do that, so it really is that personalized approach, and keep working with people to find, what works for them. I can't stress enough the personalization aspect of it.
It's that DNA is such a life hack, isn't it, in a way? I mean, with a lot of people in trying things and sort of knowing about their routine or their habits, it's almost trial and error. I can have a coffee first thing in the morning. That works for me. Others will do it, but then they won't always even necessarily be aware that it's actually having adverse effects on how they're performing. It's sort of in the second half of the day. So that is just so important for someone to understand themselves and have someone sort of do the research as well, because you may not have even registered or understood why sometimes you feel or do the things you do, and it's just a direct result of your behavior. So it's so fundamental.
Absolutely. And when I was doing my training, I was so fascinated by the fact that, they then started studying, athletes. So, for example, they studied the rowers, and they all had the similar, 8 genes, which were sort of predisposition into sort of strength or endurance, etc. And it is really, really fascinating when you get into it and what it tells you. And like I say, I found out mine retrospectively, but my goodness, it was so bang on into what I was doing, but what had probably taken me sort of, years and years of trial and error. So I would say for anybody who wants to sort of shortcut it and know whether they're, want to exercise in the morning, can they have coffee or not? What should they do before a marathon? Are they a sort of predisposition for injury, or how can they aid their recovery, etc. It's phenomenal in that sense. And you only have to do it once as well, because your DNA isn't going to change, but your expression of the genes is modifiable.
Brilliant. And just a quick one, I think this is interesting to some people to know, is breakfast a myth, or is it in it being healthy and fundamental to a healthy lifestyle, or is it needed?
Well, it's really interesting, because I don't know if you've done any research into intermittent fasting, but that is becoming quite high profile, especially for people with health conditions. So if you look at the most extreme aspect of that, where we're really going for that autophagy, you've got eating within an 8-hour window. So, people are maybe starting their eating 10 o'clock in the morning or 12 o'clock. So if you're starting at 12, you're getting all your food in between midday, 6 o'clock in the evening, to give you that 16-hour where you're going to really hit the maximum autophagy. So again, I can't stress enough.
Yeah.
Personalization.
I knew you were going to say that. And just interested to know, are there any sort of common food misconceptions that you could tell me about, between people typically thinking they're healthy when they're actually not?
The low fat myth. I've gone completely the opposite way, because you've got to look at what the food industry are doing to make something low fat. They're taking the fat out and they're replacing it with something. What are they replacing it with? Okay. So, we've got to be careful with things like the diabetes, the metabolic syndrome, because there's too many hidden sugars in foods. And I do see where something has gone low fat, it might not be the healthiest alternative as well. We know we need good fats, the avocados, the coconut oils, etc. And I would encourage people to, replace any of the sort of high animal fats with some of the more healthy fats, rather than going low fat. That's a real big myth that I see there. Another one, you see some of the processed foods, trying to be healthy. And if people are going gluten free, then I say swap out the breads for the potatoes or the rices. But when you start buying gluten free breads or products, they're 3 times the price. They fall apart. They don't taste great. There are better ways of going gluten free than replacing a bread with a gluten free bread. So those sort of things I like to encourage people to do.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for that. And just as a last question, can you name sort of one healthy meal that someone can fit into a busy lifestyle during the week that's sort of cheap and isn't time consuming to make?
Yeah, whenever I go to the supermarkets now, they do these great deals on you get the meat, you get the veg, and then you sort of choose whether you need some carbs. So you might go for something like a noodle as well. And I would say, frying up your meat sauce, with some olive oil, adding a whole load of veg is absolutely, quick and easy. Leftovers for lunch the next day, and then you can choose whether you need carbs on the side as well if you're going to the gym, or if you need a bit of extra as well. My daughter's just gone to school in London for the first time. She's only 16, so she's not used to cooking, and that's her staple. If I can get the protein and the veg into her, I'm less worried about the carbs. So I'm asking her to fill up on that. It's healthy, it's nutritious, it's giving her leftovers for lunch, and yeah.
Perfect. I'll have to give that one a go. Well, yeah, thanks so much, Kirsty. I really enjoyed the chat. It's been, literally so